Want to go out with me?
Yeah, I'd love to.
My name is Christopher, and I came back home thinking my life was paused. I'm 28 years old, and I've spent the last 5 years chasing a dream in New York City. I wanted to be a filmmaker. I was going to make documentaries and independent films and change the world through cinema. The dream was vivid and all-consuming, and it kept me awake at night with possibility. The problem was, I wasn't very good. Not bad, exactly, but mediocre. Good enough to get funding for small projects. Good enough to work on other people's films. But not good enough to make the art I envisioned. I spent 5 years in New York learning that talent isn't always enough, and dreams sometimes end quietly rather than spectacularly. So when I was 28 and tired and burned out, I called my mother and told her I was coming home for a while. Just to regroup, I said. Just until I figured out my next move. She was waiting at the airport, tears in her eyes, ready to tell me I could stay as long as I needed. She didn't understand that what I was really saying was that I'd failed. The house I grew up in was smaller than I remembered. The town was quieter. My childhood bedroom still had posters from bands I'd forgotten about. And the first night I was home, my best friend since elementary school, Marcus, showed up at my door wanting to catch up. Marcus hadn't changed. He was still the same person he'd been in high school, warm, solid, the kind of friend who's just there, steady as a heartbeat. He worked in accounting now. He was engaged. He had a golden retriever. He was living the kind of normal, happy life that I'd convinced myself I was too ambitious for. "You look like hell," he said, pulling me into a hug. "Thanks," I said. "I missed you too." We sat on my parents' porch, drinking beer, and he told me about his life. About his fiancée, who sounded smart and kind. About his job, which he didn't love but which paid well enough. About the fact that he'd bought a house on the other side of town and was genuinely happy. "You should come over for dinner this week," he said. "My parents would love to see you. Everyone's been wondering when you'd come home." I told him I would. I didn't know, at that moment, that this promise would change the trajectory of my life. The dinner at Marcus's parents' house was exactly what I expected. His mother fussing over me, his father asking about New York, his younger sister trying not to stare at me for reasons I didn't immediately understand. Her name is Sophie Chen, and she's 3 years younger than Marcus, which would make her 25. I hadn't seen her in probably 7 years, since I'd left for college and New York had swallowed my attention. She was a kid the last time I really knew her. Awkward, nerdy, more interested in her books than in anything social. She'd had braces and thick glasses and this quiet determination to be invisible at family events. The woman I saw across the dinner table was not that kid. Sophie was beautiful in a way that seemed to surprise her, like she hadn't quite figured out that the awkward girl had somehow become someone striking. She was wearing glasses still, but they were fashionable now. She was thin and graceful. She had this way of listening that made you feel like what you were saying actually mattered. But mostly, I tried not to look at her. She was Marcus's sister. That was a line I wasn't supposed to cross. She was also looking at me in a way that made me nervous. Not in a bad way, but in a way that suggested she was seeing something in me that I wasn't sure I wanted to be seen. Marcus's mother served dinner, and we talked about my time in New York, my projects, my reasons for coming home. I told them I needed a break, and nobody pushed for more. When the meal ended, Sophie offered to show me around the house. They'd renovated since I'd been gone. I followed her through rooms that had been updated and modernized. She pointed out their mother's new kitchen, their father's office, Marcus's childhood bedroom turned into a guest room. When we got to her room, she paused in the doorway. "I know you think I'm too young for you," she said without preamble. "Sophie," I started, uncomfortable. "I'm not," she said, turning to face me. "I'm 25. You're 28. And yes, you've been gone for years, and yes, I was a kid the last time you saw me. But I'm not a kid now. And I've spent the last 3 years watching you from a distance, waiting for you to come home, hoping you'd finally see me." "I can't," I said, and I meant it. "You're Marcus's sister. And I care about my brother," she said. "Which is why I'm telling you this now, and giving you the choice. You can pretend this conversation didn't happen, and we can just be friendly at family events. Or you can actually look at me and see if maybe there's something worth exploring." It's not about whether there's something worth exploring, I said quietly. It's about respecting boundaries. Boundaries that nobody actually cares about except you, she said. My brother loves you. He'd rather see you happy than see you lonely and stuck. So the question isn't whether it's appropriate. The question is whether you feel it too. I did. That was the terrifying part. I'd felt it the moment I walked through the door and saw her at the dinner table. I'd felt it with a force that surprised me, because I'd convinced myself that my emotional capacity had been exhausted in New York. But I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to feel something real when everything in my life was falling apart. I'm not in a good place right now, I said, and it was the truth. My life is a mess. I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going. And the last thing you need is to attach yourself to someone who's this lost. I'm not asking you to have it figured out, Sophie said. I'm just asking you to try. To give this a chance. I didn't call her. I told myself it was the right decision, the respectable decision. I told myself that I was protecting her, protecting Marcus, protecting our friendship. What I was actually doing was running. Again. For 2 weeks, I avoided family events. I spent time with my parents, helped my father fix things around the house, sat in my childhood bedroom feeling sorry for myself. I applied for jobs in other cities. I considered moving to Los Angeles, to Toronto, to anywhere that wasn't here where Sophie was waiting for me to be brave enough to want her. Then Marcus showed up at my house. What did you do? He asked, sitting on my bed like we were teenagers again. What do you mean? Sophie's been miserable. She's been smiling and pretending everything's fine, but she's sad in a way I haven't seen in years. And when I asked her about it, she said you asked her out and then ghosted her. I didn't ask her out, I said. She asked me. Yeah, and you rejected her, Marcus said. Which, man, I get it. I do. It's complicated. But she's my sister, and I love her, and I also love you. And I'm telling you right now that you're both just sitting in your own heads, pretending like you're protecting something when actually, you're just hurting each other. She deserves better than me, I said. She deserves someone who has his shit figured out. Nobody has their shit figured out, Marcus said, and he sounded angry in a way I'd never heard before. I don't have my shit figured out. My parents don't. Sophie doesn't. We're all just doing the best we can with what we have. And what you have is the chance to be with someone who loves you, who sees you, who wants to try. And you're throwing it away because you're afraid. I'm not afraid, I said. Bullshit, Marcus said. You are. You've been afraid since you got home. You're afraid you failed in New York. You're afraid you don't know what comes next. And you're afraid that if you let Sophie in, she'll see all that fear and leave. But she already knows. And she doesn't care. She likes you anyway. I went to Sophie's apartment the next day. She was surprised to see me. She opened the door in sweatpants and an oversized sweater, and her hair was in a messy bun, and she looked like she'd been crying. Hi, I said. Hi, she said back, uncertain. Can I come in? She stepped aside, and I moved into her space, a small, creative apartment decorated with art prints and plants and books stacked everywhere. It looked like her. It looked like someone with taste and thoughtfulness. I'm sorry, I said. For the past 2 weeks. For pushing you away. For being afraid. What are you afraid of? She asked, sitting on her couch. I sat next to her, leaving space between us. That I'm not good enough for you. That you deserve someone who's figured out his life, and I'm still lost. That I'm going to hurt you because I'm broken right now. Sophie turned to face me fully. Christopher, I've watched you from a distance for 3 years, she said. I've seen how you care about things. How you think deeply about the world. How you don't settle for mediocrity even when it would be easier. That's not brokenness. That's integrity. Yes, you're lost. But you're lost in a way that shows you're still looking. And I want to be here while you find your way. Not to fix you or complete you. Just to be here. Love always starts from the heart, I said, and I wasn't sure why those words came to me, except that they felt true. Not from the head, not from perfect circumstances. It starts from the heart. And my heart is telling me that I love you. That I have for 2 weeks, and probably for longer than that. I reached over and took her hand. But I need you to understand that I'm figuring things out. I'm going to be figuring things out for a long time. And I need you to know that might mean I disappoint you sometimes. That might mean I'm not always the most stable presence. I know, Sophie said, and she squeezed my hand. And I'm okay with that. Because what I'm not okay with is not trying. I kissed her then, and it was soft and careful and perfect. It tasted like 2 weeks of missing her, and it tasted like possibility, and it tasted like coming home. 6 months later, I'd stopped applying for jobs in other cities. I'd started freelance work helping younger filmmakers with their projects. I was working part-time at the local library, cataloging digital media. And I was starting to realize that ambition doesn't have to look like New York City and huge productions. Sometimes it looks like building a good life in the place you come from, with people who matter. Sophie and I had told Marcus about us, and he'd been supportive in a way that only a brother who loves both people involved can be. He'd made us promise we'd be honest with him if things went wrong, and we'd agreed. But things haven't gone wrong. They've gotten better. Sophie brought me to her office to meet her colleagues. She's a therapist, it turns out, which explains so much about the way she listens. She held my hand at family dinners. She came with me to visit my parents. She told me, one night while we were watching the city lights from her apartment balcony, that she'd waited for me to come home because she'd always known we were supposed to find each other. I wrote about you, she said, in my journals. When I was 18, 19, 20, I'd write about how one day you'd come home and see me differently. I wrote about us like it was inevitable. That's intense, I said, not unkindly. I know, she said. I knew it was intense when I was writing it. I knew it might never happen. But I also believed it could. And I'm not the kind of person who regrets believing in possibilities. I turned to face her and pulled her close. I'm writing again, I told her. Not films. Stories. Scripts, essays, things about what it means to come home. What it means to let someone see you when you thought you had nothing left to offer. I think I want to finish my degree, actually. Study creative writing. Maybe teach. That sounds right, Sophie said. That sounds like you. It only sounds right because you're here, I said. I came home thinking everything was paused. But you were right. You were never paused. You were waiting. And now that I'm here, I see that nothing was ever on pause. Life was just happening in a different way than I expected. 1 year after Sophie asked me to go out with her, I asked her to marry me. I took her to the spot where we'd first had dinner at Marcus's parents' house. I asked if she remembered that dinner, if she remembered telling me that love always starts from the heart. I remember, she said, and she was already crying. I didn't understand then what you meant, I said. But I understand now. Love starts from the heart, and grows from the choice to keep choosing each other. And Sophie, I choose you. Every single day, I choose you. And I want to keep choosing you for the rest of my life. Will you marry me? She said yes before I could even get the ring out of my pocket. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more heartfelt tales, and drop a comment letting us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Thanks for being part of the Unscripted Stories community.